You may remember the film Seven. Well, it was released 30 years ago, and at the time it was met with mixed reviews, but it has since found a cult following. This weekend, the same weekend the Golden Globes will be held, Seven is coming back to theaters in IMAX. All of it a good opportunity to chat with Metro Morning film columnist Jason Gorber. Good day to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. I love that we're talking about a film that's 3 decades old and celebrating this masterpiece of cinema.
And still
that
very
is coming to the big screen.
Yeah, and so influential to this day.
Incredibly influential. And look, I'm always fascinated, and increasingly in my old age, about how the films stay the same and we change. Seven came out at a really remarkable time for me. 1995, September, I was just finished university. I was about to move to Europe, and cinema was getting a little bit more edgy. We had spent most of the 80s decrying the fact that the 70s were the best decade for cinema. And there was a bunch of stuff slightly experimental coming out in the 90s. People like Tarantino were sort of pushing at our edges. And then I saw Alien 3 when I was still in high school, and I hated that film. And David Fincher directed it because James Cameron had made the Alien film that I wanted, the Army, Marines doing all this stuff. And I didn't know at the time that he had the film taken away from him. I just seen it as this total failure. So I'm going into Seven thinking, here's the guy that made this terrible Alien film, which I now love. And it's going to be a serial killer. And I didn't love things like Silence of the Lambs. I mean, they were okay. And this film is so stunningly beautiful, such incredibly impactful performances, so remarkable, and so, as you note, incredibly influential to where we're at cinematically today, 3 decades on. It's almost ridiculous to think that there was a time that this film was a risk. It was made for like $30 million. It made $350 million back then, at a time when a film like this that was not a comic book movie could make 10 times its budget, that was based entirely on this incredibly dark psychological thing. This is a film that the studio wanted desperately to have essentially a happy ending. Spoiler. and Fincher's like, no. They went back to the original and kind of got away with something. And that's what makes its ability to be seen here in Toronto at, among other places, the downtown Scotiabank Theatre IMAX, one of the great places, Laser GT, one of the great theaters on the planet, to be able to see Darius Kanji's incredible photography.
You talk about
film,
that. Yeah. Why is putting it out on the IMAX, and it being Seven, this film that's now 30 years old, why is it such a big deal to put it out on the big screen?
Because the stunning visuals, and it was shot so dark, and it was shot. So Darius Kanji was this Persian-French cinematographer, had worked on films like Delicatessen and City of Lost Children, and in Europe, these very bleak but beautifully constructed films. And then this is his big Hollywood thing. He's done a gazillion things, Oscar nominated, etc. But his photography, with poor projection at the time, which we were kind of used to, everyone's like, oh, back in the day when film was being done, everything was great. The projection was still very dark and very bleak. And when prints are made and you have multiple processes, things get muddy. Here you're going to extract the most that was on the negative, but see it laser projected on the giant canvas of IMAX, this is going to be glorious. The black levels will be super black. And the incredible production design, the elements, the mood, and all that stuff. And this is a classic film to see with an audience, to feel the sort of mood of the audience shift. This is a truly remarkable film. I cannot believe it's been 3 decades, but I am so happy that they are choosing to highlight this, because I think Fincher in some ways is not thought of as brightly as he should be, especially during this period. I think a lot of people misunderstand a lot of his films. Like, a number of these people. Paul Verhoeven comes to mind. People who saw things like RoboCop and didn't get the social satire, saw things like films like this. I think we look back at things like Fight Club and see them as probably more positive about their characters than they really are as social critiques. Seven is very much that way. And I think the time is ripe now for people to actually see this film, not just in the context of like changing Brad Pitt's career, not just seeing Morgan Freeman in a way that we hadn't seen before, not just seeing the serial killer film taken in a completely different direction, leading to other masterpieces like Zodiac, another incredible David Fincher film, but just taking an opportunity to remember that in the mid-90s, we were actually getting things that absolutely pushed up buttons, but gave us remarkable cinema.
Okay, so let me ask you, that's Seven, but I do have to talk about other movies as we kick off this new year. We're in this lull. Movies don't tend to come out in, early in the new year.
See all the Oscar movies.
Okay, so what's coming?
Right. So what's coming? Everybody's going to be excited about Paddington in Peru. That is the big one. The third Paddington film, the last Paddington 2, was, people were fighting about whether it was a better film than Citizen Kane. So I'm just throwing Paddington out for those who it bears repeating that there is a Paddington film coming. There's going to be the next Wicked film, For Good, is coming. I'm going to highlight Frankenstein, shot in Toronto by Guillermo del Toro. It's a Netflix production, but my understanding is it's getting a theatrical run. I am super excited about it. We got Mickey 17 coming in sometime around May. That's Bong Joon-ho, who did Parasite, his big return with Robert Pattinson. You got big spectacles. Mission Impossible is going to finally wrap up, or at least the Tom Cruise version is going to wrap up. I think a lot of people are very, very excited about that. But the one I'm most excited about, F1. For 2 years, Brad Pitt, connection to Seven, has been working with the people behind Top Gun Maverick at Formula One races. They have been shooting this film with cars on track. Imagine at the Super Bowl, there was a third team at the Super Bowl, and they were kind of playing a fake game while the real game is sort of going on. That's how they shot this film. They put cameras on cars and sort of did this. And so I, who am a big Formula One fan, as many people in Canada am super excited to see the crazy people that put together, that made us feel like we were flying in Top Gun Maverick, are doing an F1. There's Sinners by Ryan Coogler. There's Warfare, Alex Garland's back. But if I may, the People's Choice winner from TIFF was Life of Chuck. And it is coming out in the summer. And I love this film so very, 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 very much. And if there's one film I'm super happy for a wide audience to actually get a chance to see, it's going to be Life of Chuck. And so, this year promises to be, there's Paul Thomas Anderson has a new movie coming out. There's some amazing stuff that's actually coming out, and it really feels in a post-strike, post-COVID, post-whatever not post-COVID, but you know what I mean, post-lockdown world that we live in. We're getting a chance now to see. And 2024 had a ton of people going to a ton of movies. There's a lot of cynicism about this industry, about like, I can stay at home. Why would I bother going out? Lots of people went to lots of movies this year. And I think 2025 is going to be even more. People recognize, look, turn off your phones. Don't be an idiot. Don't be silly in a movie theater. Don't be the person that's making the experience lesser than for the people around you. But those that recognize that there's a joy to see it on the biggest of canvases, on the big, big screen, even if it's a film 30 years old, like Seven, or a brand new film that's coming out in 2025. It's a time to embrace cinema in the cinemas, and I cannot wait for what's to come.
Jason, I've got to leave it there, but I do want to ask you, how many films did you see last year?
Oh, God. 300, 350?
Somewhere in that range. Jason Gorber.
It is a job.
Yeah.
Take care, my friend.
Happy New Year.
2025.
Thanks. That's Jason Gorber, Metro Morning's film columnist and the editor-in-chief of ThatShelf.com. He was talking about Seven, directed by David Fincher, being re-released on IMAX this weekend. The Golden Globes also happening this Sunday. And then we'll be making way to see what Oscar nominations come out later this month.
Shelf.